Hello and welcome to Read Brave, a community-built comics podcast from the Graphmania Podcast Network. I'm Vinton Bain.
And I'm Joshua Unruh.
Today on the podcast, I'm joined by my friend, who you might know as the Game Master on Botchcast's Earth 405, or more likely his many segments on this very podcast, Joshua Unruh.
Hi, Vinton. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, you're welcome. Thanks for joining me. How are you today?
I'm doing super. I just came from the comic book shop, so the wallet's lighter, but the heart is also lighter.
Good. I like that.
I got more poetic as I went.
So let's dive into what we normally do here on the podcast and talk about what we've been reading. Since you haven't been on, this doesn't have to be just the last week like it does for me. You can go back a little farther. What have you been reading?
So actually, even if it were just the last week, it would still be older. I am just the worst about monthly comics anymore. It's just not my bag. So I stopped at the comic book store to set up a pull box. And on the way, I had to explain to my son what a pull box was, because I haven't had one since he was a tiny baby.
Yeah.
It's just not my bag anymore. I'll figure it out when you've got it all collected. So regardless, it's going to be old anyway.
Yep. That's the way I was before the podcast. And now on the podcast, all I have time for is keeping up with the ones I want to talk about. And I don't have any time to go back and read the ones that I want to read from history's past. And there's a lot of them, and I own a lot of them. They're on my shelf staring at me going, read me. And I'm going, I don't have time.
You've got to turn them into segments.
Yeah, that's why
you've got to read 5 or 6 of those original run Claremont X-Men books at a time and talk about them.
Yeah,
that niche is actually pretty solidly filled.
Rediscover all of that. I've been wanting to reread all of that just because I listened to so much Jay and Miles explain the X-Men. And I want to even get ahead of them. Someone mentioned to me that they were starting at Morrison's run and catching up to current day, like going through it all. And I was like, that's a lot. And that's exactly what I've been wanting to do since like maybe college. I've been wanting to go back and and do that.
Yeah, that would be, man, that'd be interesting. Because I kind of floated into X-Men for Morrison's run and floated right back out. Yeah. Because, well, I mean, I think I said to you right before we started recording, last serious time I read X-Men comics was like 1999. Despite Jim Lee drawing it, it's not exactly a golden age.
Yeah.
Anyway, so things I've read the last week. So we have to cruise past one. I have now read the first 3 volumes of Sex Criminals.
I need to get back to this because, as I've mentioned many times on the podcast, I've still only read volume 1. I have not gone further, and I need to because I enjoyed it.
Highly recommended. I don't even know if volume 4 is out, honestly. I just got what was on the shelf at the library at the time because I had also only read the first volume until recently. And yeah, so I need to look into that because they also kind of cliffhangered it there at the end of that volume. And I was like, oh, well played, you jerks. And then I've also started my 6th Gun reread.
Yeah.
Because in discussing with you, Mr. Bunn's appearance on the podcast.
Yeah, because we got a couple questions from you.
I was like, oh, wait, it did fit. I mean, I knew. Let me start over. I felt as I read it like there was a very definite end in sight, but I am now in the midst of serialized storytelling myself, and I know how those things can grow past the original plan, even if you still know how the ending is going to go. And so I had missed that it ended. So I was like, all right, great. I need to reread everything I've read and push on through to the end. So that's really been the last week. But I've got a couple going a little further back that I wanted to see if you were aware of because you might like them.
All right.
Are you familiar with Tooth and Claw?
I think I read the first 2 issues as they were coming out. I think a friend of mine had gotten them at the local comic shop and said, you need to read these, and gave them to me. And I read, maybe it was the first 3 even. And I was like, this is amazing. And then I just never got back to it, but I loved it.
I got handed the first collected volume, which very much not a finished story on purpose. And it's funny enough though, I read the very first page of it and put it down, never to return.
I don't know if remember what that first page is.
So before it gets weird, the premise is it's the future, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's magic apparently.
Yep.
And all of
as is often the case.
As it's how it goes. And the future is populated by humanoid animals.
Yep. Also, as is often the case, perhaps.
Right. I mean, yeah, for real. This apparently keeps coming up. and the first page, so your viewpoint character is this very important dog's pup. And so he's your viewpoint character, and there was a lot of info dump on the first couple pages.
I do remember that, yeah.
It's not bad. The info dump is not done badly. It's just a lot.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had given me a big, giant stack of graphic novels, and I picked that one up because I was very curious, and I read that first page, and I was like, I can't do it right now, and went and read Gotham Academy instead. I was like, I need a little softer pitch.
I do remember a time when info dumps used to scare me off real bad because I was like, I just can't get, this is too thick right now for what, because I'm a busy person. Usually I have to be focused on something, but I've come to find out that usually they are just that info dumps real quickly, and then they'll get to something faster and you'll be like, okay, I'm in now. And so I've learned to kind of push through when I hit them. I think I remember doing that with that one. I was like, ooh, this is a lot. I'm gonna push through. Okay, good.
The reason it was a particular red flag for me, and again, I liked what I saw enough because the art's gorgeous.
Yeah, it really is.
So I liked what I saw enough that I knew I was going to come back, that I just couldn't do it right then. But the particular red flag is it's kind of a fantasy story.
Yeah.
And I gave up brick doorstop sized fantasy novels for a reason. And one of those reasons is, let us tell you all about the history of our world. No, just tell me a story, you jerks.
Yep. We just talked about Saga on the Excelsior podcast, and that was one of the things we were talking about appreciating, is they just throw you in and they don't answer your questions.
Yeah.
They said, this guy has horns for a head, that guy's an actual monkey, that guy has a TV for a head. Okay, yeah.
What do you need?
Just accept it. Keep going.
Hey, psst, this is a science fiction book. Just go.
Yeah. We said it's true. It's our world. It's true.
It's true.
Keep going.
We're going to tell you the parts of it that are important when they become important.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, Tooth and Claw, that first volume is amazing. And I wondered, I think it's Kurt Busiek is writing it.
Yeah.
And reading this thing. So it's these humanoid animals and magic and a prophecy, and then their chosen one turns out to be a human being. And I was thinking, was this like a really complicated Commandy pitch that he never got to use and just filed the serial numbers off? Because I mean, his, this dog is his is the guy's companion and kind of our viewpoint character, and he's the last man on Earth, but he comes through naked because of the time travel spell. And anyway, it was just like short pants and a sword, and I was like, long hair. I'm going, this Busiek had a Commandy pitch and never got to use it and said, screw it. I like this thing a lot. So yeah, there's a bit of a hurdle at the beginning, but I really liked it. Really liked it. So I mentioned Gotham Academy was in that, which I also got caught up on.
Yeah.
Because I was reading it over a buddy's shoulder monthly. And I don't want to say it didn't work monthly, because I always felt pretty satisfied, but it also, there's a puzzle and a mystery built into that thing. And I just always felt like I was missing a little bit, and I needed to go back and reread, but I had borrowed them, so I didn't get to. And so reading it all collected up, I was like, yes, I enjoyed this on a monthly basis, but this is very nice. Have you been reading this by chance?
I haven't. When I heard about it coming out, I didn't have much interest. As you know, I'm not much of a DC person. I'm Marvel and Batman.
Right.
And so when I heard about it, I was like, okay, that might be interesting. I might check that out. And I just never got around to it. And then I heard that they were doing a crossover with Lumberjanes. And then it became on my list. Like, I have to check this out at some point, but I haven't quite gotten, I'm not even caught up with Lumberjanes necessarily. So it hasn't happened yet, but I want that to happen for sure.
The DC angle is not even the thing that caught me. I mean, I was in the tank for DC from roughly 2001 until the New 52. New 52 broke me hard. It was that it was doing young adult fiction things in Gotham, which is a super weird town. Like you'll get the knob on the supernaturalness or the weirdness of Gotham kind of turned up or down depending on where Batman needs it to be, right? And this is very much going on that. We've got a long storied history, and most of it is horrible and also kind of weird and arcane. And, these mostly girls are uncovering it for various reasons. And of course, there's a costumed criminal connection. Only it might be madness. Only it might be a family curse. Like it's delightful.
So is it set in the main Batman universe, like with everything going on? Okay, that's really cool. I did not know that.
I don't know that any of that matters.
An Elseworld of some sort or something.
Oh no, it does kind of matter because they meet Damian Wayne.
Yeah.
Damian Wayne comes in as a student.
Also makes me want to read it.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I shouldn't just say Batman fan. I'm a Batman universe fan. And right up there next to Batman is Damian.
He's pretty fantastic. And he fits right in. He's only in the book for 2 or 3 issues because he's only a student there for about a week.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And he's there for a very specific Batman related purpose. And it's one of the 2 main characters is I guess Olive is really the main character, but you get a lot from Maps too. Maps is like a year or 2 younger than her, and she's Maps because she maps everything, and this is a D&D reason. I think it's serpents and spells or something, but she gets into some shenanigans with Damian, and at some point he has to hand her his grapple gun. And she's like, oh my God, like just fangirl squeaking over it. And then he has to use a batarang and lets her keep it. And her honest, sincere question for Damian Wayne is, are you Batman? And she means it. Like there's no irony. She is just that into it. If that doesn't appeal to you with the weirdness of Gotham in the background, with a little bit of like high school shenanigans, then don't read it. But I'm telling you, it was, I would be watching the CW's Gotham Academy all the time. It'd be great. I do think there were some Lumberjanes in there, but that's universally amazing. Everybody, if you're not reading Lumberjanes, go do it.
Yeah, definitely so. Speaking of you saying you would watch Gotham Academy on CW, what have you been watching comic book wise? Any TV shows, movies been sticking out to you?
I'm a little behind on we can delve into this if you feel like it. I've had a difficult time with superhero media of late. I actually, right before the hiatus, quit Supergirl for the second and last time. I will not be returning. Flash was doing pretty good. I just fell behind after the hiatus. Yeah. I need to get in there because I say I quit Supergirl, and I will, except for crossovers, because I also quit Arrow except for crossovers, and it always pays off. Yeah. So
I quit Arrow and Legends, but I soft quit. I will probably catch up when they go to Netflix. I'm just not keeping up with them anymore.
That's totally me and Legends. Like every now and then I'll just watch an episode of Legends. I'll get caught up eventually.
Yeah.
Because that show is bonkers, and I approve of bonkers.
Yes, exactly. That's my thing with Legends. Legends is definitely a good show. Not, because
it's not great.
Because of what they're willing to do and the freedom that they have to do it with. It's right up my alley. But I get where you're coming from with Supergirl. I've wanted to jump off a couple times. I just can't bring myself to do it because there is enough in there that I'm enjoying that I keep coming back. We'll see where that goes. Flash, I feel like they've got to find that spark again because I was loving it in the last like 3 or 4 episodes. I just feel like they're spinning their wheels. We're doing some of the same thing. And I'm like, come on, guys. I know you can do it.
Well, okay. And without going into all my theories of television, that has happened to Flash every season.
Yeah.
Some to a greater or lesser extent, but it's that 22, 23 episode season where it's like, we got to fill this thing out.
Yes.
And they're not there. I like that they have a big bad. However, that kind of stalls because we can't make too many strides on the big bad, but we're not great at secondary plots necessarily either.
Yeah.
Like Caitlin is a binary problem. We solve her problem or we don't. And the longer we don't, we kind of look. And I mean, it's not terrible by any means, but there's a reason it's going to take the musical, I think, to get me caught up.
Yeah. I think more and more, and I mentioned this, I think 2 weeks ago on the podcast, I am deciding that anything past 8 episodes, 10 episodes, if they're really good at what they're doing, is just going to, at some point, find this rut where they're just pushing through and it's taking so much and you're having to push through as the watcher. And it seems like they're creatively pushing through, trying to come up with a story or trying to continue it that far. But it seems like there's some kind of golden spot there in 8 to 10. And Legion really proved that for me because Legion was so perfect at 8 episodes. It was so good. You would love it.
I have no doubt. That's all I've heard.
There's so much about it that is right up your alley because it's got this 60s psychedelic British feel to it.
Yes. Oh, yes. We've discussed the only 2 people I know personally that own the Prisoner box set it's me and Vinton.
We probably are the only two people. That's why they don't. It's not that well produced.
I don't know. We sold like 10 of them
just for us.
2 of them in Oklahoma. I don't know. Let's see other superhero things that I've been watching. Well, let's talk about. Can we talk about that Thor trailer?
Yes,
let's talk
please.
about that.
Yeah.
Thor trailer.
Oh man, this year is like the best year for superhero movies for me. Like everything, like Lego Batman. All right, I got Logan.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, yes, I'm in. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Yes,
Done
thank
deal.
you. Spider-Man Homecoming. That was made for me. I understand most people. I understand you're over it or whatever, but it was made for me, and I'm real excited.
No, they're hooking me in, and I mean, I said this at Civil War that I was like, I now care. Like I was negative 10 notches of caring about another Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
They moved me past 0. Like they got me up a notch.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm going to get to more than notch 2, but that's considering where I started. It was a huge swing.
Well, to be fair, Spider-Man Homecoming felt like it was made for me, and I could not have been excited more for anything else ever possibly. And then I saw that Ragnarok teaser, and I was like, well, guys, I want to see Thor more than Spider-Man. And I didn't think that would ever just go ahead and put it on repeat for the next minute. Ever want to see that more than Spider-Man.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited about Thor Ragnarok because you've been around for me to have to complain about this, but I haven't been on this show, so it's new for your listeners. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is not weird enough.
Yeah.
It's just straight up not weird enough. And I know that I'm a comic book guy, so I'm coming from a place where I expect every third bank to get robbed by somebody wearing a garish outfit. All right? I know the MCU is never going to get that weird. Netflix had a shot at it, right? And then they just decided to go another direction, which has mostly worked. Enough said. Driving on past, just put, we're gonna mostly worked, but you're not gonna get Scorpion robbing a bank or Shocker robbing a bank or whatever. It's just not gonna happen. And then you had an opportunity with Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange definitely weirded up the place.
Yeah, it was an intro to weird, maybe.
Yeah, it's like Weird 101. It's still really contained.
Dipping their toe in the water.
Yes. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy was super weird,
yes.
but it's also very contained. Yeah. Like it's in its own little wing. Thor: The Dark World
has shown to me
was actually pretty weird
that they dipped their toe and they were like, water's fine.
Yeah. Right. I mean, okay. So narratively, the first Thor movie is better than The Dark World, but in every way other, like actually making me care and interested in what's going on, not set in the damn desert. Yeah. Like, why do you start in Asgard and go to the desert? I really don't like that first Thor movie. It's just, here's a lot of opportunity. Squander. So the next one doesn't make all the best sense, but it's like Loki and Thor.
Yeah.
Good cop, bad cop. It's got space elves, man, with lasers and spaceships. It's just, yeah. And then they said, yes, let's do that, but even more.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's Jeff Goldblum with rainbow hair and just whatever. Do it.
Yeah, it's so fantastic. Helmet. Oh man.
We got Loki's horns, and if that wasn't Kirby enough, here's Hela's helmet,
right?
Which Cate Blanchett pulls off. Like we only see it for a second, but that slow turn, and I was like, that helmet could be ridiculous, but I'm terrified.
Yeah, and then the slow motion Valkyrie battle scene. Oh, and then so they show you that it's going to be epic.
Yeah,
from right there.
Executioner.
Yeah.
Double machine gun executioner. Love that. Yeah, and the much hay has been made about Thor's reaction to the Hulk, and it's like, yeah. But yes, but also the helmet.
The helmet.
Thor has a helmet. The helmet that they didn't have the guts for before now. Come on. Yeah.
I want to see more of that helmet, and I want to see him take it with him when he leaves.
Yes. I like this thing. Click, boom. I'm into it. I had the Immigrant song stuck in my head for 2 days.
Oh,
it's
man,
a beautiful thing.
Wanted to listen to Led Zeppelin ever since.
It's yeah. I mean, I'm super excited for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Spider-Man Homecoming, if they just go hard on the teenage nonsense, is going to be my stuff.
Yeah.
But I was like, let's have sword fights with Hulk and have Jeff Goldblum mostly being Jeff Goldblum.
Good. Just let him be himself. Give him no direction.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Who am I? You're Jeff Goldblum. Go.
Here is a little piece of, this is maybe not technically superhero media, but I'm going to tell you, it's speaking to me in the same spot that the superhero stuff talks to me. So Lucha Underground hit Netflix, and I'm the worst binger. I'm just not good at it. I get antsy, and also I like the wrestling, but too much all at once, I could zone out. And you should not, because they are amazing to watch. But the boy and I have been watching Lucha Underground, and it's, like, it's pretty superhero nonsensy.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, so much so that I think it was the Ladies of Marvel podcast. That it's a bunch of the ladies that work at Marvel have a podcast, and they talk about stuff usually going on at Marvel, except they brought the Lucha Underground people that created it onto the show and talked to them about Lucha Underground just because they liked it so much.
I got to dig that up. I'm so excited.
I just happened to be listening to the podcast, and it just came up while I was at the grocery store walking through, and I was like, what? They're talking about Lucha Underground. Joshua told me about Lucha Underground. What is this?
Yeah. Okay. So you already have to care about wrestling, or you have to be prepared to care about wrestling.
Right.
Okay. I had heard multiple times in conversations over a short span that when somebody will go, so when you saw WWE last night, and I was like, I don't watch wrestling. And their response was always, how are you into the stuff that you're into and you don't watch wrestling? So when Lucha Underground came on, I was told, like, they really ratchet up the story side of things and just get weird. Just get weird with it. You've got a guy who may or may not have resurrected himself as a child to come back as a guy named Mil Muerte, the 1,000 Deaths. Come on. I mean, they have one mini lucha, Mascarilla Sangrera. I don't know. I'm bad at Spanish, but anyway, so good. And it's really hitting me very much. I read the Superman run. I'm forgetting the guy that wrote it, but where Superman starts to lose his powers.
Yeah.
And he winds up in a wrestling federation, essentially with forgotten gods.
I've never read this. This sounds amazing.
It's okay. I really liked it, but saying that, it did not pay off on that premise. Like, that's how it was sold to me, and I showed up, and it's good. It's good. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed this run. The artist changes, but the writer stays through multiple of these collected volumes, and he is Gene. Oh, just everybody forgive us ahead of time for messing up the name. Gene Luen Yang. Anyway, so Superman starts to lose his powers. It's great. It's very interesting. His secret identity gets outed. And as part of this process, he winds up in basically a wrestling federation with forgotten gods. And I was reading that at the same time that I was starting Lucha Underground, and I was just, all this it fits in the same spot. I recommend some Lucha Underground to you and to your listeners. I think that's all the superhero media outside of comics.
Well, let me run through my list of what I read, my short abridged list, since I'm not running through everything anymore. I'm trying to limit myself to just talk about the things that really stuck out to me. This one barely made that list, but I've been trying to read all of the new X titles as we're going through Resur X Ion. Yep.
Oh,
that's
man.
Apparently the appropriate pronunciation, as I heard from Jay and Miles.
That certainly sounds like the way we ought to treat it.
Yeah. So Weapon X is not a comic that I thought I was going to get into. As a matter of fact, it was one of the ones I was like, okay, I'll give this one a chance, because I said I'll give them all a chance, but I'm only going to read issue 1, not care for it too much and just move on. Well, speaking of Greg Pak is writing this one, and he made me like it, and so I'm probably going to have to read at least the next couple issues.
Which Weapon X is? Who is the Weapon X in question?
It is a lot of people that have been created by Weapon X being hunted down by Weapon X again. So the two that you get in this issue are Old Man Logan and Sabretooth specifically, and they've already captured Lady Deathstrike and are using her to create new weapons of people or something.
Right.
Robot people. It's got this amazing start where Old Man Logan is just out in the forest by himself watching a stream, and 2 hikers come by kind of lost, and they're asking him for directions, and he's like, I smelled fear on them, but once I told him directions, the fear went away. It's nice to remember that not everyone's involved in this war of humans
whatever's
versus
going
mutants,
on
with X-Men. Yeah. And as they walk away, he turns around, and they become these insane robots with giant blades for fingers, and they just start slicing into him. And he was like, how did I not smell them?
Yeah.
Who made these, and how did they make them to where I couldn't detect that they weren't people? And then he, I guess, gets the idea that Sabretooth might be involved somehow, so he tracks down Sabretooth, and Sabretooth's like, I'm not teaming up with you, I don't even like you, I want to kill you. And he's like, oh, you'll team up with me. He's like, why? And he's like, because I walked past like 10 security cams on the way here and made myself very obvious. They'll be here in any second. And they come in and destroy Sabretooth's house, and Wolverine's just like, nice. Old Man Logan is just like, so team up?
This is how this works, right?
But I think Domino's going to be in it, and a few others I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but that should be interesting. I don't really care for Lady Deathstrike, and that's what they used in the promos to tell her story of like how she got caught.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care.
Really? You don't like Lady Deathstrike?
I like Lady Deathstrike as a villain. I don't care to read her as a protagonist.
Yeah, that's a weird choice.
Yeah.
She's kind of terrible.
Yeah.
And traded her humanity for revenge that she still hasn't got.
Now,
so it's weird.
I do like Old Man Logan, and I have liked Sabretooth since he's been trying to be good, and he's trying to like make up for past sins and trying to figure out who he is and what he should do as a person.
Yeah.
He's as confused about that as the readers are. So it works out well.
Here's what I'm sure. I should probably stop murdering people.
But Old Man Logan is getting super oversaturated, just like Wolverine. They're putting him in every comic, especially with this new relaunch. He has his own title, and he's in like 3 of the relaunch titles. A little bit much, I think, but yeah. But
okay, let's be honest.
It hooked me.
Marvel is not well known for restraint.
Yes.
So,
and I've talked now way longer than I wanted to talk about, because all I wanted to say was it hooked me. I'll continue it.
It's my fault. I asked you questions.
Now, I read the second issue of America about America Chavez.
Yes.
I'm still really excited about this. I don't think it was quite as good as the hype that I wanted it to be, but I think I just have a really high standard for this book that it's going to be hard for it to live up to.
Yeah.
The first one was
she's
that
so good. I mean, as a character, she's so great. And she was so good in Young Avengers. And she was so good in Ultimates. That, she's just really uniquely her. Don't mess it up, please. Yeah, is kind of the thing.
Yeah, I agree. But there were 2 moments that stuck out to me that I want to mention really quickly, which is starting the issue with Peggy Carter delightfully saying, punching Nazis is neato.
Yeah.
That was delightful for me. And then they brought in Moon Girl, and I'm loving, they're always bringing my favorite characters into my other favorite characters comics, so I'm really liking that.
Wait, is she time traveling? Is America time traveling?
America time traveled for an assignment and accidentally ended up in World War II.
Okay.
And she saw Cap, and Cap was like, watch out behind you, and it was Hitler, and she punched Hitler in the face, and that was the end of the last issue.
Fantastic.
And this issue, Peggy Carter shows up and was like, you ruined our plans. We were having this super secret spy thing. And she's like, what, I punched a Nazi? There's something wrong with that? And she's like, punching Nazis is neato, but we had a plan.
Okay. I think I even tweeted this at you. It's very hard for me to not read that cynically, so I'm just going to enjoy Peggy Carter saying neato about punching Nazis and pretend the rest of it's not happening.
To be fair, they then went into this giant underground lair and talked about their plan that they were going to ambush and like take down all these Nazis and do all this cool stuff. And Peggy Carter was just totally BA the whole time.
Love it.
And she wouldn't tell America anything that was going on. She's like, you'll be fine, darling. Just keep going.
You're indestructible. You punch through dimensions. Go get him, Tiger.
It was amazing. I loved her in it. But then America goes back to school, and guest speaker, Moon Girl, Lunella Lafayette.
That's excellent.
And it was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And I love that her classmates were talking to America about it. And then one of them said, Lunella is the truth. And I was like, I like this. I like this a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That sounds great.
Yeah. So I have a lot of hopes for America as a comic. And I hope that it meets up to them or destroys them and goes way past it. Please don't fail me.
Just don't fail me. We'll always have Young Avengers.
Yeah. I also got to read X-Men Blue by Cullen Bunn, which also came out this past week. And this is the team that should be my team, the team that I should be really excited about, because I've liked the Time Displaced team, the original Marvel Girl, Cyclops, Beast, Iceman, and Angel. And they are trying to do their own X-Men team apart from the school, feeling like they have to kind of find their own place and be apart from all of that for a while, especially after the Inhumans versus X-Men things that all went down, that all of this is coming out of. And Jean Grey is taking her try at leading the team. And it's an interesting dynamic with everybody with that going on.
Considering that this is the Jean Grey that was being crushed on by Professor Xavier canonically, putting her in charge is very interesting. Let's not think about that other thing and instead put her in charge. Let's do that.
So X-Men Blue really is taking it back to this place for fans of the X-Men who have been fans of the X-Men for a while, bringing back Juggernaut for the first time in a while, Black Tom for the first time in a while as their friendship on this boat. That's where we launch in immediately, just like we saw in the previews.
Oh,
and
that's good.
It's beautiful.
They do have a classic villainous bromance going on. They are really into each other in the most platonic, but we will murder you over each other way.
Yeah. And I think I would describe their writing style as slightly cartoony, but that's not like a knock on it. They're just having fun with it and taking it back to some of those fun roots, not being so serious, not taking everything so hard, not diving so deep into the drama of everything, at least not yet. And so I'm really excited about this series. I don't know that if I can say too much about the future of it because we don't know yet. We're only at issue 1. We'll have to see. So I enjoyed it. What I didn't enjoy was the after credits scene in the comic, which apparently they have those now, where it said end and then it was like an ad and then you flip and it's like later and it's a thing that has nothing to do with anything, but I'm assuming they're going to tie it in. And all I have to say about this really is I don't care for having a new Wolverine character. You didn't need to introduce a new Wolverine character. I don't appreciate this. We already have the greatest Wolverine in Laura Kinney.
Yeah.
And against what I would ever want, we have an oversaturation of Old Man Logan, like I already mentioned. We do not need another Wolverine.
I mean, so I assume at this point they have forgotten about Daken. I never was sure how to say his name.
He was around a lot in the Death of Wolverine stuff, and I don't know that they've shown anything since
I mean, you've
then.
got a ridiculous number of Wolverine options, even with Logan ostensibly in the ground.
An exact lookalike to Wolverine, except he is blonde. And that has led a lot of people to think that he is Wolverine's son from Ultimate X-Men, brought to our universe somehow because he looks just like him and dresses just like him. I don't know that Wolverine, so I'm not really familiar, but Miles from J.M. Miles Explain the X-Men pointed that out, and then I saw some stuff on the internet about it, and I was like, oh yeah, looking at images, I was like, that is exactly him.
Like the Ultimate X-Men from that is the universe that does not, Miles's universe.
Yeah, Miles
I don't
Morales
know that I read that long enough to know he had a kid.
I read that for just a brief time, but apparently Miles from J.M. Miles said that was a good run and that they did some cool stuff with Wolverine there. He agreed that they shouldn't be bringing another Wolverine. They have a good Wolverine to use, especially with the X-Men Blue team lineup. Laura Kinney already has a repertoire with them. And should be
the
that
right
person.
age and all that stuff. Like she would fit right in.
Yeah, but no, they're bringing in some other guy apparently. I don't know.
I mean, okay.
I'm done with it though.
Since for the here's what I would, because this X-Men still has the younger version of Cyclops in it.
Yes.
Okay. Just go with me here, because before they actually put the effort into making X-23 good, like a good character, because there was a while there when kind of a doorstop with sharp things, right? Before they put the effort in, I used to describe her as the Wolverine that fanboys could have those funny feelings for and judge themselves a little bit less. So put that into this new X-Men team. And we all know how a younger Cyclops and a younger Wolverine got along. Yeah. Not well.
Yeah.
What if it were a will they, won't they?
Oh, I see.
I would really be into that thing, right?
I don't know if we'll get that, but...
No, it's obviously not. We got this other Wolverine guy, but just do that thing.
Yeah. But overall thoughts, I had been told in the advertising for all of this X-Men stuff that this new X-Men stuff was supposed to make it easier and safer for new readers to come in and jump into X-Men because it's been really hard to do that in the past. X-Men Gold hit that out of the park, I think, especially because they did a story that made it easy to come in. But then in the back, they gave you a 4-page breakdown on the entire history of the X-Men.
Oh, yeah,
as it relates to each character that was going to be in the comic. X-Men Blue didn't do that, but I mean, they're characters from the 60s, so it'd be kind of hard to do anyways, except saying, hey, they came out of the past.
Honestly, yes. Time displaced original X-Men is so much simpler than actually talking about what happened.
Yeah. For all the weirdness in this comic, there's only one editor's note, and it just happens to be when Juggernaut mentions, you guys look like you did when I first met you. And the editor's note was like, check out X-Men 12. Okay, Marvel, which X-Men 12?
Yeah, you need to be way more specific.
40 of those.
You need to be super more specific.
Anyone that Googles X-Men 12 will never find the issue you want them to find. Not okay. And there could have been editor's notes on a lot of other things. That was like the least of the things that needed editor's notes if you want this to be friendly for new fans of the X-Men. This is not the jumping on point that you're looking for. Hand wave. Please go to X-Men Gold. if you know the X-Men, love the X-Men, this will be a good comic for you. If you don't, go the X-Men Gold.
And it would have been so easy, just volume 1.
Yeah.
That's done.
Not easy. Volume 1.
For real. Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
Moving on from there, the next comic I really, really, really enjoyed. Are you reading Unstoppable Wasp? I know I told you should be, but I didn't know if you'd read any of it.
I am no longer reading Marvel Comics at all.
I thought that was true.
And I made that jump before I could really get into Unstoppable Wasp. Although it did super sound like a thing I would be into.
Right. Do you know who the Grapplers are? The Marvel enemies. I don't either, but they brought them up as if they're a thing. So I'm assuming they're from some other comics that I just haven't come across them. They are 2 female wrestlers who are bad guys. And one of them just got out of prison. The comic starts with the Unstoppable Wasp. Nadia is at this shop trying to recruit this genius girl. She's building her team of super genius girls.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic.
Do that thing.
But the girl there doesn't want to because she wants to be popular. So she doesn't want anybody to know that she's smart.
Oh.
So she's kind of dealing with that. And her shop gets robbed by these wrestlers. One of them's waiting outside. One of them comes inside. And Nadia talks her down, saying, you just got out of prison. You don't want to be doing this. Let's be friends. Let's talk this out. And ends the thing without fists. But then Jarvis comes along because he's waiting outside and is like, she's taking a long time. And he walks up to the door and says, aren't you that wrestler villain? And so the lady from the outside beats up Jarvis, throws him inside and says, we got to go. There's Avengers here. And so then the other one freaks out on Nadia and punches her. And she says, you just busted my lip. I just talked you down. We were friends and you punched me in the face. And then Nadia uses her Red Room training to end them.
Okay.
Panel by panel.
Okay.
Krav Maga.
Superhero Mean Girls. Into it.
Yes. It was fantastic.
Superhero Super Genius Mean Girls. Double into it. That is a good idea.
Yeah. And so that's just the very beginning of the comic. So I didn't get into spoilers necessarily. I am going to talk spoilers because I really liked where this issue went. So if you don't want to know what happened,
skip a
minute or two. So then they're leaving. Jarvis and Nadia are leaving. The girl agrees, I'm going to join your team. You're great. Because her popular friends just videotaped the whole thing and didn't try to help. They were just like, we want hits on YouTube. So anyways, Jarvis says, I'm sorry, I'm not much use in a fight and I couldn't do anything. And she says, no, Jarvis, you're wonderful. That's great. But that's going to come up later at the end of the issue. Because then Nadia just endears herself to my heart by saying, I just wish there was something else I could have done. That didn't need to end with my fists. I could have done something more. I could have done something more. And Jarvis is like, no, you did great. You saved the day. You count this as a win. There's days that don't end like this. And she goes, yeah, but we can still be better. And I was like, yes. And then continuing on, she has a friend from the Red Room who she saw in the last issue is here looking for her, but still under control of the Red Room, but disappeared before she could say anything. She's been trying to think of a plan to go back and save her because they were best friends. And she gets tricked. I'm jumping ahead of myself, but yeah, that's okay. She gets tricked when they're leaving Matt Murdock's office. That's what I'll go back to because she's trying to get citizenship. She gets tricked into thinking there's an attack and she runs over, but it's her friend from the Red Room tricking her. And she paralyzes her because the Pym particles in Nadia's body, they came up with a way to paralyze Pym particles. So she uses that on her and paralyzes her and says, you're going back to the Red Room with me. And there's nothing you can do about it. I've seized your whole body. It's a little thing that I worked on from the experiments we did. And then Jarvis comes walking around the corner and saves the day by saying, you must be Ying. And then she says, how do you know that? And she says, well, Nadia talks about you all the time. She loves you. All she talks about is getting back to the Red Room to save you. She's willing to risk her life to go back to the Red Room to save you. And it's hard for me to believe that you're Ying because she talks about how great you are, how kind you are, how you would do anything for her too. And Ying uses the device, lets her go. And Nadia's like, oh God, Jarvis, you saved the day.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I was making a face about Jarvis not being useful enough because I was reading Avengers stuff during whatever Siege of the Mansion when the Wrecking Crew beats him up. And I'm like, listen, Jarvis is fine. But no, the best part of that is it's somebody who can end stuff with her fist saying, well, I shouldn't is beautiful.
Yeah, and then the second Jarvis comes in and ends it without his fists. It was so great. And I won't tell you exactly what happens at the very end of that. I'll leave that last page for you to read because it's not as important. But that part really got me. And also fun that they were talking with Matt Murdock trying to get her citizenship. And he said that since they can't find DNA for her father right at the moment because he's dead and they have to go through a whole loop, hole with that, but they have to keep her here for now. She has to try to get asylum.
Yeah.
But to do that, she has to talk about the Red Room with some people.
Yeah.
Which is going to put them in danger. And she said, but I'm okay with that, but I just don't want anyone to be in danger. He says, you don't have to worry about that. And as he's saying it, his shadow has the Daredevil logo on his chest. I was like, perfect. Art is perfect.
Nice. Yeah, man. Let me tell you what. I miss Daredevil shadows, and I miss so welcome back, and I miss half Peter Parker face, half Spider-Man face.
Me too.
I want that stuff is bring all that back. Just stop. Let's stop pretending superheroes are for grown-ups, you jerks. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Also, they did the joke that I will never get tired of, which is Nadia sits down at one end of the desk, says, oh, hi, Matt Murdock, and puts her hand out, and he just keeps reading the documents. And then after a while, she goes, like after 5 panels, he goes, Nadia, are you holding your hand out for me to shake? And she says, yeah. And he goes, I think no one informed you that I'm blind. And she's like, oh, gee, a blind person? I've never met a blind person. She gets all excited.
Wow.
And a lawyer. And she goes into a thing like, I heard Justice is blind too. This is a good sign.
And hey, apparently I'm the last person on earth who doesn't know you're Daredevil. So neat.
So yeah, Unstoppable Wasp, great issue. Probably would be my recommendation for this week. And I guess I'm showing my hand here because we're not supposed to get the recommendations till later. But then I stumbled upon a comic that came out this week called God Shaper. Have you heard of this?
Oh, this is familiar, but only like I've read an article.
Cy
Tell me about
Spurrier.
this. Okay.
Cy Spurrier is the writer. Introducing the illustrator Jonas Goonface. I believe that's a punk rock last name. This comic.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could even describe to you the story. Just in the quickest overlook of it all. A world where technology failed in the 50s.
Okay.
And everyone
somehow
got these gods, these little god creatures. They call them gods, but they're just these little animal shapeable creatures that they use as their source of money. You pray to them and then you exchange pieces of them for goods and services back and forth. So the people with the biggest gods are the richest people. The people with the smallest ones are the poorest people. Most everyone has a god, and most every god has a person, except for the main character, who happens to be what is called a god shaper, a person in this world who has no god, but for some reason that gives him the ability to shape other people's gods. So he gets hired to make them do whatever. And they're used for different things. Like one of them at the beginning is shown being used to just make milkshakes. They pour in the stuff from one side and he pukes out milkshake for you. One of them is a camera. He takes pictures and then the guy sells pictures. And all different things like this. And God Shapers can shape them to do different things depending on how big and talented they are.
And
it's
weird.
a really interesting story. And so I'll just leave it at those briefest terms. It's really cool, really rock and roll. There's a lot of music involvement in this. The main character is very punk rock. There's a lot of cool punk rock stuff in there that I think is mainly inspired by the art, because this artist does a lot of cool like punk rock comics mix. And as most people might know, that's where my heart is.
Yeah, you're kind of into that thing.
Exactly what I'm into. And I think this comic found me my new favorite artist.
Mr. Goonface.
Yeah, he's amazing. I love it. So I got on Tumblr. I scrolled through all of his stuff. I got on Instagram, scrolled through all of his stuff. This morning I tweeted him and said, hey, do you have a shop? Because I couldn't find any links where he was selling things, but I saw that he had made some zines in the past. And he was like, yeah, and sent me a link. And I realized I don't have much money to spend on things. I was like, man, I'm going to want all of this. So I put it on the cart just to see how much it was, and then checked my PayPal. It was $56 for all of it, and I had $55 in my PayPal. And I said, well, all right, there's my PayPal money gone.
All right. Nailed
Which
it.
is good, because I've forgotten that money was in PayPal for like a year or two, and it's just been sitting there. So I'm very excited to have
excellent.
All of those headed toward me.
Yeah, for real.
It's so great. I love his art. It's so beautiful.
I'm going to look that up. Not only because of this art suggestion, but I mean, that just sounds like such a delightfully weird premise I would not have expected. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. I don't have time for more comic titles. And yet I couldn't even think about that because I was just so excited about the artwork here. The layouts and everything are so well done. There's a scene where the main character gets done playing his show, and then the whole spread is just him walking through the crowd doing different things, just multiple versions of him.
Yeah.
And the speech bubbles of everything that happened as he walked through the crowd. And it was so awesome.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. Yeah. I really like that stuff.
And that's from Boom Studios. And I think Boom Studios is becoming my new Image Comics. I haven't read a Boom Studios comic that I have been disappointed in the past year now.
Yeah, they're really,
they all excited me.
Yeah, I don't know how many they're up to. I know they're growing, but it still seems like a relatively small number. So like they're really picking and choosing and sifting to the top, the stuff that they're going to put out there. Cause yeah, it's all really interesting. It may not all be brilliant. You may not love it all, but I mean, it's all like, I see why they picked this thing. No one else is doing that.
Yeah.
Very cool. That sounds excellent. Yeah, you definitely tipped your hand. Just cut all this and move it to the end of the show.
That's right. And on that note, we're going to move on to our segment. Today on the show, we have back once again, Farel Dalrymple, creator of The Wrenchies and Pop Gun War, here today to do People's History of Comics.
So we're with Farel Dalrymple today for People's History of Comics. Thanks for coming on today, Farel.
Thanks for having me.
Question 1. How did you get into comics? What's the first comic book you remember reading as a child?
I think how I got into comics was I had an older friend that he was really into Micronauts and, I think he had like some Doctor Strange comics and stuff mostly Marvel stuff. And I admired. He also drew too, so I really admired everything he did. Would copy him, So
yeah.
Oh, cool, I like comics too. And then I had just friends in school that I think I started reading G.I. Joe was the first comic I started collecting regularly.
Yeah.
But I'd I think I get Marvel Team Up or anything with Spider-Man in it from the spinner racks at the grocery stores when I was a little kid. That was usually that. Mom would go shopping and I would just read comics the whole time, And then also too, I was a church kid, and my mom worked at the church bookstore, and there was a bunch of comics, and they were Christian comics by this guy Al Hartley.
Yeah,
I don't know if you ever read any of those, the Spire comics.
Spire comics.
Yeah, it's Christian Archie, and then they'd have a bunch of other things the adaptation for Crossing the Switchblade. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he drew them all, or there was other artists that looked a lot like him. Just when you're a little kid, it's it's just one guy, all the artists are the same guy or something,
Right. Yeah.
But that's what I remember it being, is that I think it was that Al Hartley guy drew all the comics, even the ones that were a little more illustrative or whatever, But I might be wrong about that. There might have been a few guys, but yeah, I think those were some of the first comics that I ever read. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite comic series or character growing up, and has that changed?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked Spider-Man as a kid and Daredevil. When I was a little kid, and then I remember when I was in high school and stuff, I found there was a bookstore that had a bunch of 25-cent bins or 5 for $1 or whatever. And I found this Winter World by Jorge Zafino and Chuck Dixon, and that was my favorite comic series for years. There was only 4 issues or something at the time, but I think Eclipse put that out or something, or First Comics, one of those. And then there was this other series by Larry Hama, and I think it was Val Miriak drew them, or I don't know, I'm not sure, that it was called The Young Master. It was just it was kind of Lone Wolf and Cub style, but it was American cartoonists doing it. This is black and white comic, and I love that comic too. I was this is amazing, even though I'd never read Lone Wolf and Cub, which I probably should have. But
Question 3. How have comic books affected you? Is there a comic arc that has had a big impact on you?
Yeah, I think that Daredevil Born Again, that made me want to affirmed in me that I wanted to make my own comics.
Yeah.
I think that, was a pretty big deal to me at the time. I feel there was another really big one too. I remember being kind of upset at that when they killed off Gene DeWolf, or I think Peter David wrote. It was Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man. I remember that was first time I noticed it. I was oh wait, why do I care about a comic book character that it was in 2 panels or something. It was just this weird thing where I'm no, And it was funny because I remember doing my own comics as a little kid, and having my friends read them and like, about like ninjas or something. And I'd kill off one of the ninjas and like my friends being upset that I killed it. Like, why did you do that? So it's like kind of noticing, it's like, oh, weird. People get attachments to, cartoon characters that aren't real. It's this really strange thing.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite comic book movie or TV show?
Like currently, I think like, I don't know if I can like say I have like a favorite of any one thing. Maybe like Deadwood still favorite TV show.
Yeah.
Because I don't, maybe, I don't know. Movies, man, there's just so many. It's like, same with comics. I just feel like it's hard, it changes so much. But the one that had a really big impact on me in like the recent years was this series, like 4-volume series called Alma. I don't know if you guys read that. It's by Frederick Peterson. Frederick Peters. He's a Swiss artist. And I think the publisher is called Self-Made Hero, and they're a British company. But you can get them like in America, I think, decent comic stores. But yeah, it's a great series. They're in these like nice kind of Euro style volumes. It's 4 of them. And yeah, you can't go wrong with that. I also liked Ancestor and by Matt Sheehan and Malachi Ward, and Habitat, Simon Roy. They both ran an island, but I love both of the collections that came out of those.
Yeah. Okay, a cruel deity is about to destroy every comic in the world. You get to save 5 story arcs. What do you choose?
That's I don't know. That's like real Sophie's Choice kind of deal. It's like better just let all of them just be destroyed and just make new ones or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe like Akira. I guess I'd want to still have that around.
Yeah.
And Nausicaa. Gosh, man, I don't know. That's really that's so hard to pick. I feel like if I picked like 3 more, then people would like, anyone that listens to this would be like, no.
That's the point. You get to be in control. You get to be selfish with this one.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, both of those are pretty big tomes, so.
Yeah.
Call it good there.
Yeah.
So you can
I have to think about this a lot more.
So you can have drinks with one comic character, the character, not the actor who may have played them in an adaptation, or the historical person they may be based on. Who do you have drinks with?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I think I would have to pick like the Beyonder.
Yeah.
Or some kind of like, supernatural deity that could give me like powers or wishes or something, like a genie type character. I don't know. Like the Beyonder was like the early, in the Secret Wars 2, when he first kind of came to Earth and was like being really like, I don't know, benevolent with his power.
When Spider-Man taught him how to poop.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, I feel like you could like manipulate him pretty easily to give, oh, cool. I give, make me, whatever, give me superpowers of some sort. I don't know. I have to think about it a little more, I guess, before I got drinks with him. But you couldn't get him too drunk, though. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know. It'd be kind of fun to teach him like how to drink a beer or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So last question. What's the last comic you read?
The last comic I read was Highbone Theater by Joe Daly. Have you guys read that?
I don't think we read that one. No.
It's the only other thing of his I've read is this series he did for Fantagraphics called Dungeon Quest. And that's really good. It's kind of like this like stoner D&D fantasy quest, and it's really beautifully illustrated. Like he has this kind of simple looking style, but puts like a lot of love into each panel. Highbone Theater was a little different kind of vibe. It was just more of like this like biography of this like dude who it kind of, he goes on like a lot of like spiritual quests, takes like mushrooms, and has to deal with these like kind of like jerky roommates, but he has like this hard time like connecting with people. And it's just kind of like you know, I don't know, reading it, it's like, how much of this is like autobiographical or like based on some character that he lived with for a while. And yeah, everyone in it is like, all the dudes are these like really jacked. Everyone's like super buff. It's like really weird looking. Like they all kind of have like the same faces. But it's a real, I don't know. It was a really quick read. It's like super thick. It's like a big brick of a book. And it's like kind of drawn sort of like manga style, like 2-panel pages.
That's cool.
And a lot of it's wordless, and you can like, you know, flip through it really. I just read it in one sitting, and yeah, it was really entertaining. I don't know, it was a good book. I recommend it.
Awesome.
So do you want to plug your work, what you have out now, what you have coming up, and where people can find you as to close out?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of look for that Proxima Centauri comic. Hopefully I'll start getting pages put up this month. Yeah, I'll just announce it on like my social media stuff, like where you can see that. Yeah, my book's coming out in June, the Popkin War chain letter from Image Comics. So just, I guess, tell your comic shop or bookstore, local place to order one. I should be at a bunch of shows this year too. I'm going to TCAF and VanCAF and Boise Comic Con, I think is what it's called. There's a comic show in Boise. It's really fun. And that might be it. I think I'm forgetting a show or two, but whatever. I'll be around.
Awesome. So where will the Proxima Centauri pages be found?
That's kind of, I'm sort of one of the things I've been dragging my heels on.
Okay.
I've been like kind of playing this idea of like, oh, I should do like a Patreon thing. And then I was talking to a friend of mine, this really amazing artist, Sandra Lance. I think she draws Under Mountains now, I want to say, or maybe Arclight, one of those series, one of Brandon Graham's network series. I don't know, it's not a comics line, but edited or what have you. And she works for this. It's like an app called Stila that's like has a lot of really good comics on it. I was originally thinking about doing it on Study Group Comics, which is awesome because it's free. But I've also been considering like, man, I would like to kind of try to like monetize this so I can just work on that and not have to, do anything else, and I can get it done faster. So I'm not sure, I guess, is what I'm saying. Sure. I need to talk to Sandra more about doing this Stila thing, possibly. I also need to talk to Zach about Study Group, so hopefully he doesn't hear this before I talk to him. Yeah, because I would like to also run something on Study Group. I was thinking maybe having like I did a prequel that I just kind of did in one sitting. It's only like 8 pages, but I thought of maybe like running that on Study Group first.
Yeah. It's
sort of like a teaser, like, hey, go check out my Patreon or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I can speak highly of Patreon. It's worked out for us and a lot of my friends really well. I really enjoy that platform.
Oh, great. Okay, that's good to know. Cool. Thank you.
So all of our listeners, just keep an eye out on Farel's website. And what's your Instagram handle?
I think it's, I don't know, maybe like Farel Dalrymple or Farel Dal or something.
Okay,
like that.
Well, I'll put it in the show notes. It'll be in there for everyone to find.
Okay.
So
I don't remember URL things.
Yeah. So you can find all of that when it comes out and when it's announced on there. So
great.
Thank you so much for joining us for another interview.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah. Keep up the good work, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye. So that was our segment for the episode. Now on to recommendations. Mr. Unruh, do you have any recommendations for our listeners, whether it be comic media or comics themselves?
Okay, it's a bit in the Wayback Machine.
Yes.
Good. But the boy and I just finished watching all of, I think it was like 2003, 2004's The Batman cartoon.
Yeah.
It's
fun.
It's fun. It's not. It fills a niche that the other Brave and the Bold is still my favorite. BTAS is still the best, but this one was very, very interesting. They made a lot of really interesting choices in it.
It's got the art team from Jackie Chan Adventures.
Say no more.
Which, yeah, throws me off a little bit because I'm not used to seeing that with Batman.
Yeah.
Because they have a very unique style of animation they do. The way they do backgrounds and everything included. So, but yeah, it's really good. I think, the first season.
I mean, there are 5 seasons, which I didn't even know. I think I'd seen the first couple off and on, but we just decided to watch it. My cousin, hi, Ethan, was talking about how it was doing things in his head to one of my projects that we had been chatting about. And I was like, well, I got to dive into this thing. Yeah. So, I mean, if you need a world where everybody, including Penguin, does Kung Fu, do that thing. The cars, the Batmobiles are really cool. The Batwing is kind of stupid looking, but I mean, they were
can't all be winners.
Right. They were selling toys, which is fine. So all the stuff looks really cool. Batgirl shows up before Robin and she's kind of great. I mean, that was just an unexpected treasure.
And my recommendation is, of course, Godshaper by Cy Spurrier and Jonas Goonface. Even more than that, go just check out Jonas Goonface. Check him out online.
Yeah.
I think all of his online stuff is just at Jonas Goonface. So check all of that out. He does have a store envy, so you can look him up there and buy his zines. I encourage you to do that. I can give you more of a recommendation review for those when I get them in the mail, but I'm just going to just preemptively
I want to help with that.
You.
I am into that and want to help with that review.
So, yeah. So that leads us to the end of our episode. Joshua Unruh, where can we find you online and what are you doing? Spend as much time expounding all of the things you were doing because I know that you do a lot.
Okay, so the main thing that I would want to talk to people who listen to Read Brave about, it's not a comic book, I admit, because drawing is hard and I don't do it. But I do write things. I write things all the time. And
yeah, you write good superhero fan fiction.
That's right. I have written
for our Earth 405.
Earth 405. I have written fan fiction for that. So you have at least read something that I've written. And this is in the vein of superheroes. Okay. They're not superheroes. They're mystery men because that's different. But just go with me.
But without Mystery Man, there arguably might not have been superheroes.
There wouldn't be the Dark Avenger type. Yeah. They wouldn't exist. I mean, Batman was a shadow ripoff. And honestly, the Spider is cooler than the first year of Batman. So just...
Well, I'll agree with first year. I'm glad you put that in there, though.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, I would have been like, what? Hold on, just throw the computer on the ground.
When he was a shadow ripoff, the Spider is way cooler. The Spider is great. But another author and I, Daniel Swenson, who I discovered through role-playing game nonsense, and then I read his fantasy novel, and it was excellent. And we wanted to work together. And so we are working on serialized fiction starring various and sundry mystery men set in kind of like an alt history super New York called Empire City. And you can find the individual issues. Each one is between 10 and 20,000 words because there is a part of each story by Daniel and by myself in each one. So you get 2 parts of 2 stories and they run between 3 and 5 parts. It's called Masks and Mysteries, and the individual issues are just $1. So if you just want to dip your toe, go read the first issue, and if you like it, keep on going. And if you like it a whole lot, you can support us on Patreon, which is not actually for the writing. We get paid by the book sales for that. The Patreon raises money for us to turn around and pay artists because eventually we will do collected editions of these serialized stories, and we want to fill it full of really cool art. And because one of the things that we are doing specifically in these Mystery Man stories that are like set in a alt 1936 is that they don't all just star straight white dudes. So we are wanting to hire art. Right. I think it's important. So we want to hire artists who are from the communities that are represented in the pages so that then those communities are represented on the cover as well. But art costs a lot and we don't draw, so we have to pay somebody else. And that's where the Patreon comes in. You're helping us out on the front end. And you can find that at patreon.com/pulpdictionpress. But you're in for $1 if you want to try it out. And I'm pretty excited. We spent an hour on the phone, Dan and I, earlier this week, planning out the rest of this year and next year.
Oh, that's exciting.
So we know what's up in Empire City through the end of 2018.
Good.
Yeah. And then... I'm just not sure if it's not ready yet. I'll tell you what, follow me on Twitter at Joshua Unruh, because in about a month, I am going to make an announcement of a new project that the Read Brave listeners might be interested in. It's just a little too early to talk about yet.
And that's at JOSHUAUNRUH.
That's right. Nailed it.
Also, you can hear more of Joshua on the Okie Geek podcast, talking about Oklahoma's geek scene and any of the events going on here in this area.
Also true. And some opinions.
Yeah, and some opinions. And if you want to hear even more opinions, you can check out Girlsplained, his other podcast.
It's true. That one's been on hiatus for a minute, but it is coming back soon.
And all of the old episodes are still relevant. You didn't talk about anything that necessarily was time relevant that doesn't still matter, because I go back and listen to those episodes. So there's some really good stuff there. If you want to hear more thoughts on Supergirl, thoughts on Girl Meets World, thoughts on some other things I'm not remembering.
We stalled out in the middle of Jessica Jones.
That's right.
But I feel really good about the episodes that we got to cover. And we stalled out because of Rowan, my co-host, going out into the world and becoming like a tech superhero herself. So she has been she went through like a year-long boot camp, and now she is ace programmer and has gotten a job, and she is moving across the country right now as we speak to start the new job. So again, it'll be a couple of months, I think. I want to give her some time to settle in, but we have already been talking. We are fully ready to go back into Girlsplained. She's just still in the midst of awesome upheaval, but upheaval nevertheless. So yeah, Girlsplained, Okie Geek, find me writing things, Earth 405 fanfic, more Botchcast. Apparently I'm all over your stuff.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny that at the beginning I just said from Earth 45. Everyone knows you from this podcast too. I was just trying to
true. I've been talking about
podcast.
Robins, and I've been talking about weird crap from the Golden Age. So yeah. Here's a hint: the Robin pieces are trending in the direction of the new project.
All right, I like that.
A little bit of a hint.
Turns out he's writing a new Robin series for DC.
God, if only. That's very daunting.
Well, this episode has gone on a little bit longer than most episodes, so let's wrap it up. Remember, you can find Joshua Unruh on Twitter at Joshua Unruh.
I like to keep it easy.
That's right. You can find me on Twitter at Flesh Eater. If you'd like to support the Graphomania Podcast Network, check out patreon.com/GRAPHOCAST. That's Graphocast.
That's Graphocast.
And I don't think we'll see you next week, because I may be going on a small vacation for the weekend, which would make doing the episode and editing it hard. So we'll see. But you'll probably see me the week after. Goodbye, faithful listeners. Thank you, Joshua Unruh.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. See you next time, true believers.
Same Read Brave time, same Read Brave channel. This has been a Graphomania production. If you would like to hear more podcasts, go to graphocast.com, GRAPHOCAST.com. Follow us on Twitter at Graphocast, and like the Graphomania page on Facebook for news and updates.